Okay, welcome back. We're going to do another set of practice questions today. I'm going to do a lot of ethics questions as far as documentation, um, feedback, reporting, communication. All those things are the last two sections of the task list that really give people trouble. I mean, other than I think the terms and definitions, I think the ethics questions are really make or break on the exam. So I think this is a really important set of questions. So I really recommend going through these and making sure you understand each one. Um, if you're enjoying the videos, like and subscribe. Um, if you need our study materials, you can head to our website, or you can use one of these links, which I'll put in the comments and the descriptions below. Other than that, I really think these are going to be valuable to you. Ethics questions are very important on the exam. Like I said, I think they can make or break a pass or fail score. So let's get into it. Number one, which of the following is the best example of maintaining client dignity? So you can almost guarantee they're going to ask you about client dignity on the exam because as practitioners of ABA and as RBTs, okay, we're going to be working with kids who can be highly impacted by the disability. So it's really up to us to make sure we're doing everything right to respect them, okay, as people and as clients. So the question here is, what's the best example of that? How are we going to maintain client dignity? Is it A, sharing a client's private information with other RBTs, explaining to the waitress that your client has autism during a CBI, not restricting the client's right to food or water, or sharing a client's information with a peer? So A and D, okay, one, you should never share a client's information with anybody, okay, other than the parents or the supervisor or approved parties, okay. Not only does it violate ethics, okay, there's also HIPAA, right? So we should never be sharing this information with other RBTs, other BCBAs, people not involved in the case, okay. So A and D are out. B, explaining to the waitress that your client has autism during a CBI. So a CBI is a community-based intervention. If you're out at a restaurant with your client, okay, there's no need to explain what's going on, right? Not only might that be demeaning for the client, they might not want other people to know, okay, that they're in therapy, that you're their therapist. Maybe they're comfortable with it, okay, that's one thing, but you shouldn't start explaining to everybody around you what's happening. Again, you're sharing a bunch of information that other people don't have the right to. Okay, so B is out. And then C, not restricting clients' right to food or water. You should never restrict basic human rights. Okay, food, water, sleep. Right. There's a difference between depriving them of certain treats, right, and certain items, and straight up not letting them eat, not letting them drink, and not letting them sleep. So the answer is C. Number two, which of the following is the best way to communicate treatment progress with the client's parents? So at the end of each session or even during session when the client, parents, or caregivers are asking you, how are session going? What does it look like? How should you communicate with that with them? Okay. The thing you want to remember is you want to use non-technical language. Okay. So you want to speak in plain English in a way that a novel observer would understand. So you want to pretend they don't understand ABA whatsoever. How are you going to explain treatment progress with them? A, we changed our reinforcement schedule from an FR5 to a VR3. Okay. So what's wrong with this one? Well, maybe they understand what reinforcement is, but do they know what a reinforcement schedule is? Do they know what FR5 and VR3 are? Probably not. Unless they've gotten extensive parent training, there's a good chance they don't understand what those two things are. Okay. So you really don't want to speak in A because they probably not going to understand what you're saying. Okay. So A is out. B, we probed out hand washing today. The BCBA will analyze the task and create a task chain to implement the following session. Same problem, right? Probed out, analyzed the task chain, okay, implement all these things because you're trained as a technician, but the parent won't necessarily know. They're not required to know, okay? That's not their job to know. It's your job to explain to them in a way that they understand, okay, what's going on. C, the client's behavior was really bad today. The BCBA's plan isn't working. It's just a very negative way to present it. Also, you don't want to throw your supervisor under the bus, okay? If you don't agree with the plan, that's part of being a team and communicating to the BCBA, okay? That relationship with the client and the team, which is the BCBA and you, is very important, okay? anytime you're jeopardizing that, right, by bad mouthing your supervisor, bad mouthing another RBT, okay, being negative, all you're really doing is hurting the client. Okay. So you want to keep that in mind, right? If you don't think the plan is working or the data says it isn't working, then go to your BCBA and you guys have a discussion. Okay. You don't need to put that out there to the parent. D, we worked on brushing her teeth. She successfully applied the toothpaste and brushed by herself for 30 seconds. Perfect, right? What did you do? Worked on brushing her teeth. What did she do? Applied the toothpaste and brushed by herself for 30 seconds. Okay, we're making progress. D is something anybody can understand regardless of their ABA knowledge. 3, which of the following is part of an RBT's role during service? So what is the RBT's main role, right? Implementation, okay? So which of the following of these is part of that role, right? That's your main role, but you have other roles. So is it A, conduct a functional analysis? No, remember, right? Conducting the FBAs and the functional analysis, right? That's the job of the BCBA. You're there to assist, okay? But you're not conducting them yourself. B, supervise new RBTs. No, you won't be supervising RBTs in the technical sense, okay? BCBAs and BCABAs actually have RBTs under them that they supervise, and there's a process, and the board oversees it, and it's a whole deal, right? Now, you might train new RBTs, right, or help train new RBTs and support them and mentor them, okay? But in the literal sense of supervising RBTs as far as documentation, that's not part of your role. C, solicit new clients by marketing your company. No, that's not your job, okay? There are also rules in place that you don't need to know for the RBT test necessarily, okay? But that's not your job to get new clients, right? I mean, it's great if you love your company and you want to promote ABA, go for it. We love ABA, so more the better, but that's not necessarily your job, okay? And then D, required reporting of abuse or neglect. Yes, we are mandated reporters. If we expect or suspect abuse or neglect, you are required to report it. Okay, let me say that again. You're a mandated reporter. If you expect or suspect abuse or neglect, you need to talk to your supervisor, okay, and you have to report it. It's a requirement. So D is the answer. Okay, you are working with a client who is 23 years old and lives in a group home. Recently, his doctor told him that he is at risk for diabetes and needs to improve his diet. Your BCBA implements a self-check reinforcement system that rewards the client for eating an approved diet. One day, the client has had enough and tells you they are going to eat whatever they want. Your BCBA tells them that is not allowed and orders you to restrict them from eating unapproved meals. What should you do? Okay, so a lot going on. 23-year-old client, okay, lives in a group home, right? Has health problems and has been told by his doctor he needs to stop eating to improve his health. Okay. So your BCBA has also given you a direct order to restrict them from eating unapproved meals. What should you do as an RBT in this situation? A, comply with your BCBA. After all, she is in charge. No, right? You're part of the team. Okay, that's your supervisor, but blindly following everything they say, okay, even when you know it's wrong, okay, is unethical and is not what you should be doing, right? So just because he or she is in charge doesn't mean you always have to comply, okay, if you know what they're asking is wrong, okay? So A is out. B, refuse the request and explain to your BCBA that it would be unethical. The BCBA doesn't change her demand, report her to the BACB board. Yes, okay? So problem here is the client is 23 years old. They have the right to smoke, to drink, eat whatever they want, okay? They're an adult, right? They can do whatever they want, right? The behavior plan, okay, is a suggestion, it's a way to change their behavior, right? But it's not mandated, okay? So just because they're your client doesn't give you the right to tell them what to do. It'd be the same if your client was an alcoholic and you're working with them and for a week, right, they don't drink, and then on the 8th day they can't take it anymore and they want to have a drink. Well, you don't have any right to stop them, okay? They're an adult, right? They are allowed to do that, okay? So the BCBA demanding that you do this and to restrict them from eating, okay, is unethical. So you should refuse the request and explain to the BCBA that it would be unethical, right? So try to talk to them first, okay? Always take that first step, right? Communication, communication, communication. If they still don't change the demand, okay, you are then allowed to take it up to the BACB board if you feel that strongly about it, okay, which you should because it is unethical, right? And you want to make sure we're being ethical to our clients, okay? So B is the answer. Always read the other two, okay? Read every answer. C, buy your client the meal they want. You know they are stressed out. No, right? It's not your job to buy them the meal just because they want it. Also, you know they're stressed out. You don't know what's going on, right? So C is just wrong. And then D, immediately report your BCBA to the board. You should always try to communicate first and have a conversation, okay, before you jump to the board and ethical violations, things like that. Maybe your BCBA just made a mistake. Now, if you have that conversation, right, and it doesn't change, well, then you can take more drastic actions. The answer here is B. All of the following are acceptable for a professional relationship between an RBT and a supervising BCBA, except, so here's that except question. Remember, we need to be cautious and aware of the word except and the word not in our questions, okay? So this question is asking, what of the following are acceptable? Everyone is acceptable except what for the relationship between an RBT and a BCBA? A, the RBT implements the treatment plan as directed no matter what. Well, what did we just talk about, right? Should you implement everything no matter what? Even if you know it's wrong, even if you don't feel right about it, even if you know it's unethical? No, right? You don't have to do it no matter what, okay? You shouldn't do it no matter what, okay? Most of the time, the majority of the time, right, everything's going to be okay. But for those instances where you know something is wrong, you don't need to implement it. That is not part of your relationship, okay? So the A is the answer. Always read all the answers, right? B, the RBT contributes ideas and input about the shared client. Yes, that's part of your relationship, okay? You're part of the team, a big part, a major part of the team, right? You're with the client more than the supervisor. You should have ideas and input. So B is right. Okay, so B is part of the relationship. C, the BCBA provides feedback to the RBT about the RBT's performance in the field. Yes, the BCBA should provide you feedback. Okay, you should be wanting feedback and it helps you grow and improve. Okay, and then D, the BCBA can request that the RBT assist in parent training and functional behavior assessments. Yes, right? You're there to help on parent training and FBAs and functional analysis. That is part of your relationship. The only part of your that isn't part of your relationship is implementing no matter what. You're playing Monopoly with a client during session. The target behavior is taking turns. You roll the dice and move your piece. Your client picks up the dice and takes their turn. After every fourth instance of your client appropriately taking their turn, you reinforce them with a token and say, "Great job taking turns." What reinforcement schedule are you using? Again, a lot going on in this question. What is the question they're asking? That's what you need to know, okay? Before you get bogged down with what you're doing and what your target behavior, blah, blah, blah. What's the question? Okay, start there. The question is, what's the reinforcement schedule? That's what you're trying to find out, okay? So is it a VR4, DRA, FR4, or FI3? So this is where knowing your terms come in and your definitions, okay? Because you should know what a VR4 is. You should know what a DRA is. You should know FR. You should know FI. Okay, you should know what those mean. If you don't, well, you're just going to be guessing. Okay, that's why you need to know the definitions. So, what are you using? Well, what do we have? We have every fourth instance of your client appropriately taking turns, you reinforce them. Okay, so what is that saying? It's saying every fourth response, okay, they're reinforced. What do we know about every time? Okay, is that fixed or is that variable? Is it an average or is it the same? Well, it's the same, right? Therefore, it has to be fixed. So A is immediately out because V is what? Variable. DRA, okay, we're not talking about differential reinforcement, so DRA is out. So it has to be C or D. So what is our second thing, right? Is it responses, okay, or is it based on time? Well, every fourth instance of taking turns. So it's based on responses. Therefore, what do we do? What are we looking at? We're looking at a fixed response, fourth, 4, okay? So the answer is C. So there's multiple giveaways in this question, okay, if you know what you're looking for, right? We know it's fixed, okay? So we can eliminate A and B. We know it's 4, right? So we can even eliminate D, and we know it's responses. So again, we can eliminate D, okay? Break it down like that, understand what they're asking, and know your terms, know your definitions. After every session, RBTs record notes about what took place that day. When creating session notes, RBTs should remember what? So what should you do as an RBT when writing notes about the day? A, text or email their BCBA full session notes after every session. No, this is not required, okay? If something unusual, out of the ordinary, concerning, whatever happens, yes, communicate that, right? Text them, email them, ask them the question, okay? But you don't need to report everything about every session every day, okay? Not a requirement. B, ensure their data is accurate using inter-observer agreement. Not your job as an RBT to get inter-observer agreement, okay? So don't worry about if you're not sure what that is, okay? That's not part of your job. C, to provide their opinion on how the day went as they are writing notes. Is it your place, okay, when you're writing session notes, okay, to give your opinion? No, that is not your place to give the opinion, okay? Session notes should describe what happened during that day, okay? That brings us to D, objective, remove personal bias. Those session notes should tell me exactly what happened, okay? So us as a team, okay, can create new ways, okay, of improving skills, changing behaviors based on what happened in the session. If you're giving your opinion, okay, we can't make decisions based on opinion. Okay, we need to make decisions based on facts and data. Okay, provide your opinion when discussing the case. Okay, with the BCBA, but when you're writing notes, okay, you have to be objective. You have to remove personal bias. All right, you have just completed a preference assessment with the help of your BCBA and determine a Kit Kat bar might act as a potential reinforcer. The client eats Kit Kats every day for snack and dessert. Your BCBA designs a skill acquisition plan using Kit Kats as a potential reinforcer. The BCBA instructs you and the parent to deprive the client of Kit Kats unless the client earns a Kit Kat during treatment. Is this ethical? Okay. So remember our earlier question, right? Your BCBA wanted you to deprive your 23-year-old client of the food they wanted. In this case, right, you're working with a kid, right, and they just want a Kit Kat bar, right? But you're being asked to deprive them, okay, to strengthen its value as a reinforcer. Is this ethical? A, yes. Manipulating antecedents and motivating operations is an established practice in ABA. Absolutely, right? In this case, okay, you're not depriving them of food, right? You're not depriving them of water, right? You're not depriving them of sleep. You're depriving them of a snack, right? A dessert, okay? That is an established practice where you're manipulating an antecedent, okay, to try to increase the value of that Kit Kat, okay? This is allowed, it happens all the time, okay? And it's something you should do often, right? Manipulate motivation, okay, in order, okay, to hopefully increase the likelihood of your client working for the Kit Kat, okay? So this is allowed. Understand the difference between the two questions, okay? Between depriving a 23-year-old of their meals, okay, and a kid of a dessert, okay? Understand the difference between those two things. B, no, you should never deprive the client of their rights to what they want. Well, we do it all the time, right? You deprive the client to what they want all the time, okay? So B is out. C, yes, you're free to deprive the client of anything as long as the behavior is changed. No, I mean, sure, we could deprive them of all food and water, right? And I'm sure eventually their motivation would change, but is it ethical? No, it's something you shouldn't do. So you should never just freely start depriving them of everything just because you're seeing results, okay? And D, no antecedent manipulation is not part of ABA. Yes, it is. D is just wrong. Answer is A. Which of the following is an example of a dual relationship? Again, easy term, part of your definitions. What is a dual relationship? Okay. Is it A, you work with the client in school and in home? No, right? That's not a dual relationship. That's just two environments. B, your best friend's son was just diagnosed with autism. You take them on as a client and start working with them as an RBT. Yes, this is a dual relationship. You have a personal friendly relationship And then you become part of a professional relationship with that same person, okay? As the textbook definition of a dual relationship, blending personal and professional, okay? So B is the answer. With a C, each session, the parent spends an hour with you observing. Nope, parents are legally, right? It's their right to observe session. It should be encouraged for them to be part of session, okay? D, taking your client to a restaurant as part of interventions with the approval of your, that should say BCBA of your CBI, okay? Yeah, you're free to take clients out with approval, okay? It's encouraged. You want to generalize those skills. The answer is B, that's the textbook definition of dual relationships, a personal and professional relationship, okay, interfering. All right, and finally, okay, one more ABA question. Consequences affect blank behavior, okay? If you watched my reinforcement and punishment video from Monday, okay, you should know this. When we're applying consequences like reinforcement, right, and punishment, what behavior are we affecting? Are we affecting current behavior? Are we affecting past, future, or current and future? The answer is future. Consequences affect future behavior. Behavior that's already happened, right? It's done. It's gone, right? When we follow a behavior with reinforcement, we're increasing the likelihood of the future behavior, okay? So reinforcement, punishment, consequences, they affect future behavior. Okay, that'll do it for today. As always, like and subscribe if you enjoy these videos. Another one coming Friday on our task list, terms and questions, and then 3 more next week. Okay, if you need the study materials, check them out on our website or the links below. As always, keep working hard, keep studying hard. It's going to pay off. Any questions, please let me know. Other than that, I will see you Friday.